Hello, Internet, and welcome to the Rough Drafts Competes Journey of Wrestling League. It is our second weekly in the month of September, and as we head into the twilight period of our Season 1 Wrestling Championship, I cannot think of anyone I'd rather have by my side than my co-host here, Xander. How you doing, buddy?
Not good, Chase. Not good. My card's going first today.
Yeah,
And
congratulations on finishing last on a show for the first time, I think, in this entire competition.
yeah, no, it feels terrible. I hate it. Not a fan. Really wish that Walter or Eduardo had underperformed for me, or you. You guys just didn't want to be nice to me. You didn't want to be my friend. And so because of that, I have to go first today. And it's something I will never forget. And
Yeah.
I will make sure to punish all of you for it when the next pay-per-view comes around.
You know, I understand where you're coming from on that. I will say there's now 100% correlation between me having one of my wrestlers shit talk you in a segment and you getting last place. So I'm not saying that I'm going to have an insult competitor segment every week, but I am saying that I might bring one to the pay-per-view just to try to
Interesting.
weasel things in my direction. Not,
Interesting.
not,
Noted.
not that that has helped, because let's be real here. Eduardo won the last pay-per-view and is currently
Sure
tied
did.
with me in the weeklies. So we'll get to him and everything the Campeonato de Luchasaur has in mind. But we do start with you. So tell us, what can we expect from this episode of Wednesday Night Triumph?
Yeah, well, Wednesday Night Triumph, we've got somebody new showing up, and as a result, we're doing something new that no other promotion has done yet, which is really honestly hard to do at this point. All of you guys have come up with really cool, unique things. But Wednesday Night Triumph is coming out with something brand new, a new concept, and we're excited to showcase that. On top of that, we're going to have some big faction moves going on here. You're going to see some big stuff from Conquest or Death, from Juge, from Bright Future, and maybe something from Kanoto Karius that we're pretty excited to share. So that being said, let's get into it.
Let's jump into it. I'm excited to see how it all comes together, because I love a good debut and I like building shows around that debut. And apparently, Theo Walters checked PayPal, buddy.
Yeah. You know what? The weeklies. It's clear that these are not. This is not my set of weeklies. Okay, and that's fine. All right. James Sakura, welcome to the promotion.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Gloria Legends. We looked at how Animal came in, and we were really excited about what Animal did and is doing for the promotion. New heel came in looking good. All right, James. Johnny sat down with me and said, "This is going to be different." And I said, "What do you mean, Johnny? What do you mean? What do you mean this is going to be different? We're gonna put him up against another young guy like we had with the Gavin Evans, and make him work for it, make him earn that spot like Animal Fukuoka did." And he said, "No. He's like, factions should have the opportunity to take a shot. We like what Magically Enhanced Wrestling has done." And I said, "Okay, well, so what? We throw him in a match, and there's a representative from each faction." And Johnny said, "No. This is Glory of Legends. All right, we're bringing a new concept to the table, and it's called the House of Pain." I said,
Okay.
"Johnny, what the hell is the House of Pain?" And he said, "Oh, that means that James Sakura is running a gauntlet from all of the factions that potentially want to poach this guy, bring this guy in, or just beat the ever-loving crap out of him." And so that's what James Sakura has before him today.
I love a good gauntlet style situation. And I will say, the fans seem very in on the idea. Forget the rating of the segment itself. James Sakura is already over with the fans. And I think everyone in this competition understands the power of a 4-3 out of the gate. Whatever's being said here, he is a 4-3. The mechanic has won over the fans. And that means they're going to theoretically be rooting for him. But they've also really been loving Aiden Astral, who I think needs a good showing after maybe an underwhelming performance against Christian Quinn last week, even if Wagon Raid did secure the victory.
Yeah, listen, Aiden obviously was looking to be fire in that Wagon Raid match, and Wagon Raid did win, but he underperformed. And so, given the opportunity tonight, he's representing Kanoto Karius. And I'll be honest, he's not trying to poach. They are not trying to poach James Sakura. Kanoto Karius are doing what they do best, and they are putting the hurt on someone they see as vulnerable. A new guy showing up, someone who, a face, relatively young dude. They see this guy and say, this could be a bright future. This could be a Brigantia. This could even be a For the People. You know what? We gotta put the brakes on that. We gotta make sure that no one wants this guy. We're gonna come out. We're gonna come early. And Aiden is the right guy for this. He's healthy. He's been a strong wrestler despite the 0-8 singles record. He really has been performing. But he's got a chip on his shoulder after that him going out in that Elam match early for Wagon Raid. So he's hungry today. And it's James that has to overcome that in his first match.
Well, I mean, it is interesting, the idea that he has multiple matches even if he loses the first one.
Absolutely. It's a gauntlet regardless win or lose. You're out there.
That is absolutely
welcome to the
brutal.
House of Pain.
Just imagine just losing match 1 and getting the shit kicked out of you. Would be very tough for another 2 segments. Luckily for James, I'm gonna guess that Aiden Astral, because Kanoto Karius hates everybody, and because Kanoto Karius is feuding with basically every faction you just named, and Aiden's gotta be a little bit worn out, perhaps that gives enough of an opening for James Sakura to win his debut match?
You nailed it. Aiden's a bit tired, all right? He does come out strong. It is a good match, as you can see.
Yeah.
But it's going to be James Sakura taking the win.
Look, you could say that it's a little predictable that you weren't going to just give him 3 L's in a row. The game says it's good psychology, because sometimes doing the right thing for a story is the right choice. And the game, I'm glad the game rewarded you for it. It's a nice.
I'm happy about that too.
Especially James Sakura now just 18 points away from becoming a main eventer. You could have a 4-3 main eventer by the end of this card.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, well, I mean, the next person in this gauntlet, this House of Pain, as you've described, Hall of Pain, excuse me, that you've described it, is here, and it is one Deputy Newland. What brings Deputy to the ring now to try to take down James?
Deputy, all right. He is a very notable member of Burn It All Down, but someone who, again, is hungry to represent. And I'll be honest, Sakura was not high on the list of things that Executioner Goro cares about right now. Okay, Executioner Goro, he went down to Krieger and he said, Krieger, you take care of this. You figure it out. You choose who's going to wrestle. All right. Deputy Newland immediately went up to Krieger and said, hey, I need this opportunity. All right, let me put my boot on this guy's neck. Let me be the one that takes him down. I need a win. All right, I need a win. My record's been suffering lately. I've been in tough matches. This feels like an easy win for Burn It All Down. Let me be the guy. And I'll be honest, Krieger was hesitant. Okay, Krieger was hesitant because Krieger was looking at Wijaya and was pretty confident Wijaya would run over James Sakura. But Deputy Newland talked him into it. Okay? And so Deputy Newland is coming out here on fire. Literally. This guy, he needs the win for Burn It All Down. A lot is riding for his reputation here. He wants to break into that 900 popularity echelon. He wants to be the one that is saying, I know I'm the older guy here, but I'm going to make it happen. Yeah. And James, because of the second match, James is a bit tired.
James is a little bit tired, certainly. I do think, when you look at Deputy Newland, right? Ever since he betrayed his former tag partner, Kota Super, he has looked stronger as an individual. He has built himself up as a considerable force. That solo record, a lot of those losses came from before he made his heel turn. And since he embraced that side of him,
and to Phil Hangtime, just to add.
Yeah, sure. And Phil Hangtime is a guy that a lot of very good wrestlers have lost to in the past. Not a bad person to lose a feud to by any means. The question is it enough to take down James Sakura, or does Sakura find some grit and the mechanic finds a way to take down the deputy?
Well, that's the question, right?
Uh-huh.
And I gotta say,
Uh-huh.
James narrowly finds a way to win this match. Deputy looks like he's going to win for almost the entire match. And at the very end, James pulls it out and overcomes and takes Deputy down.
Yeah, I do love to see that. I find it very funny. I guess there's a slight boost in the set feud based on the popularity of the individual wrestlers, because despite having a slightly worse score, this feud has a slightly higher base hype, which is kind of fascinating. But look, I think, again, the key here, interesting story. That's a big buff that you got simply because the fans here are enjoying this Hall of Pain that you've built. And I, for one, I'm very impressed that James Sakura has managed to hold on here as long as he has, and now has pushed himself. He is one popularity away from being a main eventer.
Just for the record, we did call it House of Pain, but I prefer Hall of Pain, so that's canon now. Thank you.
Okay. Here's the thing. I had a tag. It was the Hall of Pain before River Dannenberg betrayed his fellow members, and then they became the Hall of Ash. So that's what I had in my head.
Gotcha. I love it. It's mine now. Thank you.
Perfect.
Yoinked. Consider it yoinked.
Yeah, no, it's never showing up on my show again, so take it, my friend. So you have one more match, and
we sure do.
Skullshot is the one. Mr. AK-47. He says he does not miss. His record indicates otherwise. Why is he the one being sent to the ring right now?
Right? So Mr. Skullshot here, all right, made his return. And since doing so, I mean, he was in a lot of very notable matches, right? In a lot of very notable matches. But he has not been able to come away with the solo wins. That's a key, discrepancy here is that Skullshot is the kind of guy, right, that had the standout performances with Jolly Roger upon his return after being injured. Okay, he has gotten wins. He's arguably gotten more wins than he's ever had in his career. Because solo-wise, he was losing a lot. And a lot of those losses came before he did more with Jolly Roger. All right? Mm-hmm. That being said, tonight is the night. He promised Johnny that he would be the one at the end of the Hall of Pain, and that no matter how far James gets, this is where he stops. This is where he gets put in his place. And Johnny looked at Skullshot and made prolonged, uncomfortable eye contact and said, Skullshot, this is your last chance for solos matches. If you don't win this tonight and you embarrass Conquest or Death in a match like this, as high profile as our debut wrestlers have been, the fact that this is the first time that we're doing Hall of Pain, that I am the one that orchestrated it. If you don't do this, you will only be wrestling with Jolly Roger, and you will not be wrestling in pay-per-views. You are dead to me, basically, if you don't make this happen.
Wow.
And Skullshot looked at Johnny and said, I understand. I'll make it happen.
Well, he better make it happen. I mean, James has just fought 2 other matches. If Skullshot can't take him out now, the future of Skullshot's singles career would look bleak regardless of the threats that Johnny Hangtime throws out there. Can James Sakura go full Hulk here and take down a 3rd opponent tonight? Or does Skullshot step up, take care of business, and earn the right to keep competing in singles competition?
Yeah, so, again, that's the question. And James has narrowly pulled out wins all night. The match against Aiden Astral was close, but he was on top, all right? The match against Deputy Newland was extremely close because he was getting tired, but he ends up on top. And arguably, Skullshot is lower in terms of performance right now than Deputy Newland. But the question remains, how tired is James Sakura?
Mm-hmm.
And tonight, Johnny Hangtime and Skullshot are going to be happy because Skullshot's coming away with the win. He is going to be the one that puts James in his place. All right. And that is going to be Conquest or Death retaining their spot as the most dominant faction. All of the factions tonight not looking to bring James in. They were all looking to put the hurt on him. And honestly, fantastic showing from him. We're very pleased to see what else he can do. And, you know, Burn It All Down and Kanoto Karius are going to be looking at this guy in the future and saying, you know, we really need to get a win over him. Are we sending the right people? You know, Deputy and Aiden, you guys better clean it up, because if you just let this guy roll you, we're going to have problems internally. But tonight, Skullshot starts off his feud with James in a good place.
Well, you know, this is where I'm so excited to see how you use James, right? Because he is a tag team specialist, which implies he would benefit from joining some faction, and what you end up doing in the long run on that front would be super interesting. Or maybe you make an independent tag. I mean, it's not like Saki Slab and Dietrich Mullen would be incapable of wrestling with somebody just because they don't have a faction. So I am excited about it. It does seem like this was the lowest scoring of the three, but ultimately, I think a very fun concept. I love this Hall of Pain that you've created, and I look forward to seeing where you take James from here, because he's only 4 points away from being a main eventer now, and that's something that's an exciting tool to have in the arsenal.
Yeah, it'll be great having a wrestler at that caliber, and you know, and we'll see what comes of it.
Yeah, now we've got quite the interesting segment at the moment. It looks like Johnny and Eric are in the ring. What are they telling the fans here?
So, Johnny comes out, and right behind him, for the first time in months, walks Eric Hangtime. They are walking out together. And you can see Johnny has a big, menacing grin on his face. And Eric Hangtime looks more deflated than we have seen him since the onset of this promotion. Eric looks genuinely beaten, more so than when they lost the tag team belt for Hangtime Heresy. And tonight, Eric looks at Johnny. Johnny smiles and hands him the mic. But before he does, he goes, "Go ahead, Eric. Tell him." And Eric, with almost tears in his eyes, acknowledges, "I am the weaker leader. I am not what I thought I was. I disobeyed my brother. I embarrassed Conquest or Death. I've lost. I am not the person to lead this promotion, and my brother Johnny still is. The Emperor is the one that we all need to stand behind, and I have made mistakes, and I am sorry." And he looks at Johnny. You can tell he's not happy. He drops the mic and he walks out of the ring.
Yeah.
And Johnny picks up the mic and gives a little chuckle and just says, "Audience, fans at home, don't ever forget your place. I am the Emperor, and I will be the one that decides the future of Glory of Legends." And then his music kicks in and he drops the mic and walks out.
I mean, yeah, that sounds about right. Look, there are people who will challenge Johnny for the true leader position. I think Emily Everett has been a very interesting person for him to go up against. I don't think the 2-9 Eric Hangtime was going to get there. Certainly not in time by the end of this particular feud. It is unfortunate, I think, because it's a new segment and one that doesn't have a lot of base stats to it. The upside here was limited, but the utility of being able to blow it off without exhausting them further, and wrapping this up before, I don't know. Maybe some other things are happening on this card.
Maybe some other things.
I do think it was the right call, even if the segment
Yeah.
wasn't exactly what we were hoping.
And we can be honest that we talked about this
Mm-hmm.
just game mechanic wise for the folks watching. We knew that this was going to be the one that likely got dropped. We had Chase and I both had a feeling that this was the match that, or the segment that was going to be the lowest. So this was a calculated decision, but narratively it has to get pushed, and we're really happy, as a promotion, that Johnny is able to exercise his will so he can move on to the bigger and better things. And Eric, you're going back to the drawing board, brother.
Yes, we will see what comes down for Eric next. But for now, we've got a very interesting situation. Both Vinland Saga and Oda's Revenge seem to have found each other. Tell us what's happening here.
Yeah, so listen, Oda's Revenge has been very, friendly with Vinland Saga. Vinland Saga being one of the few groups in Conquest or Death that usually extend an olive branch, have solid matches even with competitors that they don't necessarily get along with. That all changes tonight, though, because it has to be noted that they're no longer exclusive members of Conquest or Death.
Mm-hmm.
One of those members has been pulled into Kanoto Karius.
Mm-hmm.
And that changes everything, because Cassidy has mandated that if you're going to be with us, you are with us all the way. There is no handshake, friendly smile part of this faction. If you are here for brutality. You are here for hit and run. You are here for guerrilla tactics. You are here for whatever kind of nefarious, dastardly violence we want to commit.
Mm-hmm.
And you are Vikings. Find your true nature. Become what you should have always been.
Wow.
And Vinland Saga, they look at their losing streak. They look at how their matches have gone, and they realize why were we taking these losses for Conquest or Death? Why, without Johnny ever standing behind us, were we doing this? Why did we maintain our face orientation for him, for the fans? Fuck that. We are reborn anew, and we are born in fire and blood.
Yeah, I mean, and oh boy, do we see the fire and blood tonight. I mean, look, it felt inevitable. I think once we started seeing the move from Bear Winter into Kanoto Karius, we knew something was going to go down. We knew this raiding party feud had been there for a bit. But at the end of the day, I think you got to be happy with a 5-star segment that pushes Vinland Saga a little bit up the card, increases the hype of that raiding party feud.
Well, raiding party is new also, just for the record.
That's
a new one.
No, because it just got a +7. It's not new.
It should be new. If you check right there, just started. Feud started between Vinland Saga and Oda's Revenge.
Wait, you can do both of those at the. But okay, fuck it, cool. There we go. I didn't think you could get the fact that it said plus. That I was thrown off. New feud. Good to know.
Yep. New feud, because just because, for the record, Vinland Saga never really feuded with a lot of the other tag factions outside of the ones that Conquest or Death was actively warring against. So Conquest or Death hasn't warred with Juge. And however, Kanoto Karius and Juge are feuding. And because of that, that is the start to a new Total War feud between two factions that have never gone at it. And it's a beautiful start at that.
Yeah, Kanoto Karius sure does love to fight literally everybody.
They sure do. Especially the face factions. They are very, very oriented toward that. But, they're doing it by stealing, a member of Conquest or Death away. So
they sure did. And by the segment name, it looks like they might be stealing another.
Well, what you will notice here is a switching sides segment, and you're damn right. You've got the full tag now heading over to Kanoto Karius. That means Wolf Klein and Bear Winter both moving. Wolf Klein attacking, and Kanoto Karius joining him as they single out. So it says all of the members of Conquest. That's not happening here. Okay, it's
Yeah,
not all the members. That's not how Konodo Karius operate.
Mm-hmm.
All right, but for the sake of the narrative, okay,
Mm-hmm.
we will say that that the member of Conquest or Death that was out there talking to Bear and Wolf, not Johnny, not Phil. All right, another key member who's trying to, up his standing as a leader within this faction. It was Kai Galvana. And Kai was out there trying to tell them, hey, you guys are still Conquest or Death's tag. Doesn't matter that you're in Konodo Karius now, you're still Conquest or Death's tag. And we know how Konodo Karius feel about that. And so Wolf Klein, out of nowhere, assaulting Kai Galvana, Bear Winter joining him, the rest of Konodo Karius joining him, and Kai receives a beatdown in the ring. And Johnny is furious.
It's one of those things where on the one hand, no one ever truly expects a betrayal, right? You're not going into this thinking tonight one of my members is going to leave. But once Bear Winter was gone, he had to imagine that it was very likely Wolf Klein would be as well. You do see here, it does look like Johnny took it personally. There's now a new treachery feud between he and Wolf Klein, and I would love to see what that match looks like. It is another hit to Conquest or Death. It seems like they got their reputation back up at the end of the last pay-per-view, but have now fallen a little bit. And of course, the reputation number only matters as much as you, the storyteller, want it to matter. But I do think this is one of those moves, like Konodo Karius got one over on Conquest or Death. They were unprepared for something they should have been prepared for, and that's, Johnny bragged about his leadership earlier.
That's going to matter.
Yeah. It seems like it could be a problem, but I think Vinland Saga has the solution to a problem, which is they beat up Oda's Revenge. I guess, did Oda's Revenge get backstage and try to heal themselves back up while that switching side segment was happening, or how did we get back to the ring with these two?
Yeah, so I'll be honest, this match doesn't start in the ring. It ends up in the ring, okay? But Vinland Saga go backstage and pull Oda's Revenge out by their hair, by their ankles to the ring and say, this is a raiding party. We are going to bring you into the ring and we are going to beat you senseless again. But this time it's going to be an official match. This isn't some surprise beatdown. This isn't some, thing that's going to take you. You are going to know what's happening from the moment we grab you until the moment you're covered in blood out of the ring while we're standing there cheering over your corpse.
Yeah, as the face announcer here, it hardly seems fair that Vinland Saga is like, yeah, we're going to give you heads up on this match. You just beat them in the ring not very long ago. You can't possibly believe, Vinland Saga, that this is a fair match. But as someone who is also a Vinland Saga fan secretly, I'm hoping that this means they get a win. Do they get
It sure does. Vinland Saga getting a win for Konodo Karius over Juge, the first official match in this, both this faction feud and this feud for Vinland Saga and Oda's Revenge being the raiding party, and it goes hot.
It does go hot. It's a very fun concept for a feud, and I think this show really illustrates why people are going to be hyped for it. It is also your first holy shit moment of the night, which has to be nice to see. Bear Winter, Kaiman Nomura starting a battle of forearms before they kicked each other's heads off. That's another 30 creativity points. Some overness for Vinland Saga, which, to be fair, they could use. It's not like they're in a pure danger zone, but they'll certainly never turn it down. And we'll have to see how this heel turn affects their ability to climb up the tag team standings.
Absolutely.
But we move now to the tag belt. This show, very clearly a bit of a tag theme going on here after the James Sakura shenanigans.
And even that's still tag oriented slightly, just not yet. But
perhaps.
It is a hint. It is a hint.
Wink,
This
nod,
is a tag
nod,
show.
nudge.
Yeah, he's a tag specialist. This is a tag show. There might be something going on with James Sakura and tags later. You'll have to keep watching to find out. But that being said,
yeah,
we've got the championship on the line here. we've got Blot Out the Sun, Flame Regiment, and Frontline. Okay? Frontline. This is the first time that Serpentine has wrestled since he lost his belt. Okay? Not that, I mean, just 2 weeks ago, Serpentine lost his belt. And because of that, Frontline was put on the side. Frontline was, taking a back seat to Serpentine's solo ambitions. But Matt pulled him back in and said, hey, man, you lost the belt. Let's go put the hurt. Let's go win this tag belt, dude. Blot Out the Sun aren't that good. I know that we respect Juge, but come on. If a face faction is going to be the one holding this thing, with how we see these heel factions turning and positioning to take this belt off of them, we should be the ones holding it. And meanwhile, Krieger, he said, Wijaya, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that tonight I didn't put you out against James. I made a mistake. But please, go do what Burn It All Down needs you to do. You in general have shown that you have the talent to come out and be a serious force in this tag division the way that you weren't in the solos division. It's time to make that happen. It's time for you guys to finally show what you've been working toward, and that these last 2 losses to Blot Out the Sun, all right, are something you're going to overcome. And then last but not least, you've got our champions. Blot Out the Sun. 3 months, 3 title defenses. But they don't want to stop. They worked their asses off to get here. They had to beat and wrestle their own faction. They had to wrestle Oda's Revenge. They had to wrestle Castle Crashers.
Yes.
They had to wrestle all of the top talent. And they don't want to let go. They see the posturing. They see the danger. But they are continuously persisting. They are continuously persevering. And it's a matter of whether or not tonight, on a weekly, which this is a belt that has changed hands during a weekly, can it happen?
Well, you mentioned that it has transferred over in a weekly before, and that is giving me pause, because otherwise I would say, well, obviously Blot Out the Sun are winning this. I do like the idea of Frontline taking this belt. I'm just going to take a shot in the dark and say you're not doing it yet. I think Blot Out the Sun retains. Am I right?
You're correct. They retain for now.
For now. And it's a 4.5-star match, a solid match. I do think that gets the belt feud hot, as well as the Green Arrow Serpentine Suprema. It's a nice hot match for everybody. No holy shit moment, but gold prestige on the tag belt, which I have to imagine feels pretty darn good.
Yeah, that was honestly part of the goals. We've been pushing this belt a little bit more than we had previously in the last 2 months. We really wanted to see it go over. We felt Blot Out the Sun were the right crew to do it. They've been putting on hot matches, and honestly, a lot of new tags have formed, trying to come after this belt with the hang times no longer going for it, which in all honesty has been more of a benefit than a harm. As much as Johnny doesn't want to admit that, Conquest or Death kind of not really being in the picture for this tag team orientation, it's been really positive for the prestige of the belt, for Juge pushing their narrative, for Brigantia pushing their narrative, and now Burn It All Down. The Melt the Belt feud, that is something that needs to be noted, because Wijaya and General Hayashima, the entire reason they formed this tag was to take this belt. And even though it looks like Kanoto Karius are going to have a fire opportunity of their own, for lack of a better pun, this is something that Flame Regiment are certain they can do. And it's going to be a matter of whether or not Blot Out the Sun can weather that storm, long enough for Kanoto Karius and Vinland Saga to put something together, or if Flame Regiment are going to be able to take the belt off potentially at the next pay-per-view, or what happens after. This feud's got legs now, though, so we'll see.
It sure does, and I can't wait to see how Vinland Saga fits into it. It's a nice 4.75-star card for the night, so a good bounce-back week for Glory of Legends. Not that I expected anything else. Now, unfortunately, Xander, we are going our separate ways for now, but do you have anything else you'd like to tell the fine folks at home
Yeah, no,
before we.
unfortunately, I gotta go take care of some stuff. All right, big coaching things for Brooklyn College Esports. So once again, go follow them. But I will say about the matches coming up. I hope Eduardo does the worst. I don't want him to win the weeklies because he just won. And I hope you do second worst. And that this is Walter's time to shine. I want to see SWA Primetime come away with some big matches and get a dub. That would be my favorite story arc here. It would also maybe give me some padding so I can maybe still come sneak a win away. But if I'm not going to win the day with the 4.75 stars, I want it to be Walter. I want the fact that this guy has been pushing matches the way he has and is now really coming into his own. I'm telling you, his average star count must be barely below the rest of us for the last 3 months, despite not coming away with a win. He has been having fire matches. The narrative he's pushing is great. Lots of stuff for me to steal. I love it. And I'll also say that he's part of the reason that inspired you and him are the reason that inspired what James Sakura's match tonight. We very obviously took what Magically Enhanced Wrestling does with how they bring in new talent. But I'll tell you, the other idea for this really came from how Walter has been kind of conceptualizing his narrative feuds. And then me just doing what I do with that and running, multiple layered and individual faction things and making it something where it's built around this overarching story. So once again, good luck, Walter. Terrible luck to you, Eduardo. Especially once again, you killed Tafit, and you should pay for that.
Mm-hmm.
And to you, Chase, I wish you partial luck. I hope that you push all the narrative you want. I hope it's fantastic. I hope you get 4.25 stars.
You know what? I will take partial luck, and I will also encourage people, go give Brooklyn College Esports some love because you do some great work over there. And we will see. I think this might be one of the first shows in which Walter is taking a page out of our book, which I'm very excited about. But you'll have to catch it on the VOD. Thanks again for your time, man.
Yep. Take care. Go Brooklyn.
Let's go Brooklyn indeed. But for the rest of us, let's go on to SWA Primetime and see what it is that Walter has in store for us. It starts with a shot of Ethan Wild walking into the building. He's got the title belt on his shoulder. He is talking on the phone loudly to who knows who while wearing this classic sunglasses. But we hear a car alarm going on in the background. And Ethan kind of gives a look like, is that my car? I better, turns around. And when the camera catches up to him, we see Daniel Stevenson, of all people, has gotten on top of Ethan Wild's black Bentley, which of course it's Ethan's because it has the short license plate. And Daniel Stevenson is just beating the crap out of it with a lead pipe. And Ethan, seeing this, just screams, "My car! What are you doing?" And Daniel just drops a sarcastic, "Oh, sorry, friend," before jumping down and walking away, which I absolutely love. I love the car destructions are becoming a commonplace within this competition. I think Ethan Wild maybe last week's segment took things a little bit too far, just a little bit beyond what maybe Daniel Stevenson can handle with all the other hurt that he has taken. And with that, we move on. Wait, what's this? Could it be Walter? How'd you get here? How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing better than Ethan Wild's insurance agent. I can tell you that much right now. Listen, I'm always here. Sometimes I'm just in the back and I'm working my card, right? I'm working my show. I'm talking to the guys. Although I really wish I didn't show up for work today because I'm sure Ethan Wild is gonna come yell at me about something. Even though, I don't know, maybe don't be a prick.
Yeah, it does seem like this is just the consequences of driving Daniel Stevenson to the edge. Do you think there's going to be a match next week or perhaps at End Times for Ethan Wild to get revenge? Or are you going to have to keep these two apart? Because I can't imagine that hatred's going down anytime soon.
Well, Daniel Stevenson has certainly prevented Ethan Wild from driving anywhere else for a while. So I guess To the Edge is about as good as it can be. Listen, we'll see. As I'm considering what the card's going to look like for End Times, I have a lot of things to consider for all of our competitors. With Christopher Devlin mainly probably going to be focusing on Tyler Dynamite, as we will see a little bit later tonight as Prodigy takes on Dominatus Tenebris. There is an opening. What should Ethan Wild be doing? And as he said in his promo last week, there really isn't anybody on the roster that he hasn't beaten at this point. And while I don't like rehashing the same old thing, I mean, Daniel Stevenson is the person with the biggest gripe to face against Ethan Wild at this point.
I mean, that's certainly true. And while he has beaten Daniel Stevenson before, he's never faced Daniel Stevenson with nothing left to lose. Or at least it sure seems that way. We will have to keep watching. But tonight's episode, it looks like we've got Kingdom Come versus AR-60. I noticed there's no feud here, Walter. Is this just a tag qualification match, or is there something else going on here?
Yeah, so the thing here is that I am using this as my decision-making tool for who is going to challenge Hollywood Bound for the tag team titles at End Times. Like I said about the cup, the tag team tournament as a whole, listen, like, just because Hollywood Bound and Prodigious are the title and the contract holders tonight does not mean by the time we get to Winter Zone, though, that they will still be holding those things. The titles obviously still need to be defended. I'm not just going to give the champions 2 months off because they have a hypothetical match down the road. And Prodigious, I still think you have to prove yourself day in, day out, and there's a reason that it's for Winter Zone, right? It is supposed to be challenged against. They did not face off against every single tag team that were in the tournament. It is a single elimination tournament, and if I really wanted it to be an instantaneous thing and not there be a little bit of drama as they were defending things, I just would have made the title match for End Times.
Right.
So this is something the tag teams, I still want them to be fighting for something. I still want them to be trying to make each other better and trying to work their way up the card. Outside of being the narrative champion that I am, I really do believe I have the best tag team division out of all of us, and this tag team tournament was an opportunity for me to kind of flex that, flesh out the division a little bit more and give them a lot more screen time.
Yeah, well, I did love your tag tournament. I loved seeing Kingdom Come together, right? We've seen this kind of budding relationship between Jules Murphy and Drew King. Drew spent all those resources and all that time courting Jules and then giving him some opportunities against Devlin. But it seems like the two just enjoy fighting together at this point. The question is whether that's enough to beat a team as seasoned as AR-60. I mean, what should fans be looking out for in this match?
Yeah, absolutely. AR-60, obviously the new look from M60 and growing out the playoff beard, as you so joked about last time. Listen, these are two teams that Kingdom Come being relatively new, created because of the tag team tournament, and AR-60. Neither of them have really gotten shots at the titles, right? None of them have really been super high in the title contenders. I do know AR-60 did have one challenge, against Down Under months and months ago, and that then built into their match that happened at the Cup, which AR-60 was successful with. But they really haven't had an opportunity because of the Eternum Short Civil War to kind of operate on their own, really go out, be a tag team, focus on the tag team division. And that's what this opportunity is here tonight. Kingdom Come, a relatively newer tag team, but two just incredibly popular singles wrestlers that are really kind of meshing very well together. And then AR-60, which they are an excellent tag team. They are a great duo. They are tag team specialists. So it is kind of interesting to see, is the sum of the whole, is the sum of the whole stronger than its individual parts, or is the experience of AR-60 what's really going to get them over the top here tonight?
Yeah, in times like these, at least with the kind of storylines that I focused on for my own tag division, I always tend to lean on the team like AR-60 that both has experience and is on a bit of an upswing. It feels like they had some great matches against the Killers recently that have helped push them up the card. Are they getting the win tonight here, Walter?
Well, It's funny you mentioned the Killers, because the Killers were the only part of Chort that did struggle during the Chort Eternum Civil War, and AR-60, did defeat them a couple of times. And what's that? That's the Killers music playing as they come out. They cause the distraction. They cause AR-60 to lose the match, and Kingdom Come is going to get the win here tonight.
Absolutely brutal. I mean, obviously, great match. The fact that it got negative half a star for the distraction ending and still scored 4 3/4 is awesome to see. Says a lot that it worked to their strengths. And Drew King hitting Algenica with 3 consecutive finishers. That is a holy shit moment on a match that had no feud heading into it. But oh boy, does AR-60 and the Killers end up getting back and forth. I mean, it just seems like the Killers have not had are not finished with AR-60 just because the Chort Eternum feud seems to have come to a close.
That is correct, and the fact that they are still out there, they are still beating down AR-60 after that last match. It is the prophetic words of Ethan Wild from his promo last week that now the corpses will be picked by the vultures in the desert. And listen, I don't want to talk about the Killers in this manner, but this truly is a vulture like moment here as they are picking the carcass of AR-60 after they interrupted their number one contender match, and then decided to leave them laid out in the ring.
Yeah, I mean, this attack segment went really well. It's a hot segment, so overness and morale for both competitors, which is always great to see. A big boost to the Only Monster feud. It doesn't look like that feud quite went hot, but it might as well have. 4 3/4 stars, another incredible start here. And you've increased the hype boost for after-match attacks moving forward. So that is going to raise the maximum score that these segments can get, which, as you could tell, was already a near 5-star segment. So, Walter, I have to imagine this sequence has got to be feeling pretty darn good so far.
Listen, just like we wrote it up on the drawing board.
Absolutely. Well, let's see what Maestro Gomez has written up, right? Because this seems like perhaps another contender match, given that Trixie Albright's involved. Is that right?
So listen, I do want to say this isn't Maestro Gomez's doing, right? Maestro Gomez has, hinted to myself and to the rest of the booking committee here that she wants new challengers, right? She doesn't just want to go back and forth 3 matches with Brooklyn Cambril. She doesn't just want to fight Jessie Mallory. And to be fair, it's pretty clear that those women, as we'll see a little bit later tonight, they are more focused on the women's title. The Mildred S. Robinson Cup really is for up-and-comers, stars in the making, as you see the gimmick for Trixie Albright here. And again, this is talking kind of looking at some women that haven't really had many shots at the title. I know they've been in multi-women matches. I know Consequencia has sort of acted as a stepping stone for people like Brooklyn Cambril or for Angelina Cardinal, as they've been dealing with some of the the mid-tier kind of women's heels on the roster. And Maestro Gomez didn't come to me and she didn't say put Consequencia in this match. She didn't say put Trixie Albright in this match. This was ultimately my decision. But as they were getting ready, I did see Maestro Gomez, say a word to her tag team partner from telenovela that said, take care of her, please. And it's the please that kind of catches me a little bit off guard because, Maestro Gomez has been very kind of vile, kind of cruel to some of the other women on this roster. And for some reason with Consequencia, there is like a kindness to her. So we'll see whether Trixie Albright can handle the consequences of her actions.
Yeah, I mean, look, it helps when you have a thing worth fighting for beyond just a win. Because let's face it, Consequencia would already be giving it her all because she's 0-7 in singles competition. She needs the win as a 3-2, 24-year-old heel that could use some overness, use some big matches to push her over the top. She should be giving it her all regardless. But with a friend like Maestro Gomez, someone who is one of the few people that has made that kind of personal connection as a result of the tag bond that they've formed, I mean, I have to imagine that's got to look tough for Trixie, right? Does she have what it takes to overcome Consequencia after her match last week?
We say that, but I do also want to point out, Maestro Gomez isn't out here with Consequencia. She's not acting as a second. She's not acting as a special guest referee. She's not on commentary. She and Consequencia, much in a way that is very dissimilar to Empress Kabuki, they don't rely on each other to be the ones to influence matches, right? They are heels, but they are heels that they want to kind of earn things their own way. Now, it might be a little underhanded, it might be a little dastardly. I'm not going to say that Maestro Gomez or Consequencia, wouldn't pull out a sneaky chair shot or something like that in a match, but they are not the type of like chicken shit heels where they're like, let me throw up 1,000 bodyguards in front of you or make you run through a gauntlet of matches before you actually challenge me for the belt.
Oh man, that's so funny just because of the card that we just saw from Xander. You'll see it on the VOD, but please continue.
Yeah, and Trixie, listen, again, underperformer. She's a star in the making, and I really do think some of these lower tier wrestlers I really haven't given a fair shot to. I feel like, unfortunately, I have picked some favorites, right? Cobra Gaston was, probably at a similar level to Trixie Albright in terms of popularity, overness very early on, and I put a lot of effort, a lot of time into him, and he's turned into one of the biggest stars in this company. I don't want to inflate his ego. I don't want to piss off any of the other wrestlers backstage, but he's been one of my favorite performers to work with for his ability to buy into what he is doing.
Mm-hmm.
And perhaps I see something in her that gives me kind of a same outcome. Perhaps she is a star in the making, and it's just that she needs a little bit more of my focus to allow that to happen.
So are you saying Trixie's getting the win tonight?
Well, yeah, I mean, Trixie is getting the win tonight. She is going to beat Consequencia. And, I understand that it's not a great match. I understand that, there's still struggles. She is a 2-star work rate wrestler. Listen, you got to put the work in. You got to put the work in. And if she's going to become that star she thinks she is, you got to put her in spots where she can be successful. And some of that also means that I can't just throw her against Empress Kabuki, right? I can't piss off the Empress. She's got to make her way up against some of these other mid-card wrestlers that are on her level.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you look at it from a record perspective, I think this is exactly the kind of opponent that she's facing. It's 3.5 stars, which could be better, but also could be worse. I think it's a fine result given that, it's a 2 and a 3 here at the end of the day. I do like the fact that because Trixie is a quick learner, if you've been training her behind the scenes, because this game does have a training mechanic, you could potentially get her to that 3-star rate and get her to a position where she's putting the kinds of matches where each individual lesson she's taking from these opportunities you're giving her now truly pays off. And I hope that's the case, because I think she's a fun tool to have in the arsenal. Someone who's going to come in, week out, and be someone happy to step up and fill whatever she's called upon to do. I think it's an interesting comparison you make to some of those other favorites that you've seen, and I look forward to seeing how far she can go, and I mean how Maestra handles Consequencia's loss here, because she can't be thrilled by what just took place.
I wonder if maybe she is. I wonder if she's happier that she's not going to be facing Consequencia for the title at End Times, which I can confirm the Mildred S. Robinson Cup Championship will be between Trixie Albright and Maestra Gomez. Funnily enough, in Trixie Albright's hometown, the location in the United States that we are operating in 2 weeks. That is Trixie Albright's hometown. And, I'm not going to spill the beans here, right? I'm not a type of person that goes, you absolutely win or you absolutely lose in your hometown. But, this is an opportunity for Trixie to show up in front of her friends and family. And, I think Maestra Gomez might be a little bit happy she doesn't have to face her friend.
Well, that's very fair, and I, for one, cannot wait for End Times at insert name of U.S. location here. I think that's going to be great.
Yeah, we don't have a large enough reputation to be an international company, so we have to just stay in the United States.
I mean, that's fair, but you could have said any city, and I would have smiled along for the ride. But you have picked.
It's funny.
Yeah, Well, look, it's a classic Springfield situation. I appreciate it. As I appreciate, it looks like we are formalizing the relationship between Saiko Sahana and Made in Japan. Walk me through this one.
You know, I think this is the dirty little secret that everybody knew ever since Saiko Sahana interfered in Empress Kabuki and Angelina Cardinal's match at the Harold G. Vincent Cup. You know, I'm slightly annoyed that I had it blow off and then it went hot because, man, I had some plans. It would have been great. But now this gives Angelina Cardinal some space away from the Empress, some time that she can focus on a different competitor. And I think everybody knew that Saiko Sahana was going to be joining Made in Japan. And, you know, Kaito Sakurai and Talia Adler have been putting in the work, right? They have been looking for some younger members to join the crew. Obviously, they have two champions in Empress Kabuki and Heizo Ogawa. We've seen the addition of Kenji Saber, and now with Saiko Sahana to bolster their women's division. I mean, this is arguably the strongest faction that we have in the SWA. I know Christopher Devlin, as the world champion, would be kind of frustrated by that, but at the end of the day, I don't know what you can do to stand up to this faction, especially when, you know, the lads, who are a pretty strong faction in their own right, just couldn't withstand, you know, a feud with them.
Yeah. I mean, undeniably, you look at Made in Japan, they're at reputation 9. That's about as high as you're likely to get. And it's a nice boost. Your new blood is now leveled up, so it can hit higher peaks than even 5 stars moving forward. It's a big popularity boost for Saiko Sahana. It's a sizable popularity boost for everyone in Made in Japan. The fans love when new blood comes in to bring everyone together. And I think you told me that perhaps Saiko has been given a new challenge as kind of a requisite for joining the faction. Is that right?
Yes, I have learned how to speak Japanese, and you are picking up on the right part of Empress Kabuki's promo out there in the ring. She has tasked Saiko Sahana with ending the career of Angela Cardinal. So that'll be very interesting to see. We have not seen Angelina Cardinal since Saiko Sahana attacked her last week backstage. You know, she came out, she tried to challenge Sahana to a match. It wasn't happening. She went backstage, and once she got through gorilla position, Sahana was there with the steel chair ready to attack her. I don't know when Angelina will be back. I have reached out to her. I've reached out to Layla Hertz, who is her manager and a member of the lads, and they said they haven't heard from her since last week. So it's, you know, something we're paying attention to, and I'm sure Made in Japan likes to hear that news.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, look, Saiko Sahana very clearly on with the program. Her days trying to resist the Empress as part of Tatsuno Funo Sentai seem long in the past. And I look forward to seeing what this means for her career, because you, more than all of her other competitors, are willing to put in work to get these tutus to shine, so when their stats finally catch up to the potential you see in them, they can actually do some great things. And I look forward to seeing what you have in mind for Saiko moving forward. But we do have this triple threat, this triangle of feuds here between Brooklyn Cambrille, Jessie Mallory, and Raven. All 3 of these women hate each other, but for different reasons, though perhaps all boiling down to wanting to be the greatest in the SWA at the end of the day. So what brings these 3 women into the ring tonight?
You know, I think hate is a strong word. I don't think these women hate each other. And you know, even Jessie Mallory and Brooklyn Cambrille having their feud over the Mildred S. Robinson Cup, I don't think they hate each other. I think there is a mutual kind of respect there, that they push each other to be better every time they enter the ring with each other. It is funny that we're coming right from the Made in Japan segment there, because this is about who is going to challenge Empress Kabuki at end times. Once again, a little bit of an error on my part blowing off the Angelina Cardinal and Empress Kabuki feud, but listen, we live and we learn, and the game should have better fucking tool tips. I need a new challenger, right? I need somebody to wrestle against her. And you know, Jessie Mallory has had a shot against her. Raven has had a shot against her. They had that multi-woman, that trios match, you know, a few pay-per-view cycles ago. Brooklyn Cambrille just lost the Mildred S. Robinson Cup Championship, but let's be honest, she had outgrown that belt. right? I think she is a much bigger star than that belt was even going to give her. So these are, the three top women in the company, with Kabuki obviously being the champion, and Cardinal kind of off the screen for now. So we got to pick one of these women to actually wrestle against the Empress in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, and it is fascinating to see this trio, right? Raven is a great example. The stats are all there. Whenever she's in the ring, she's putting in good work. For a while, it felt like she was doing more managing Drew King than she was her own work. But since then, I think she's put together some good matches. I've loved seeing Jesse and Brooklyn go back to back for a while, and I think both of them have a lot of potential. Jesse very easily could start a journey to be a face of the company by the end of the year, and Brooklyn is already 4 out of 6 months on the way. I have to imagine it's very difficult to pick an individual winner for this match. So, who did you go with?
If you asked me at the beginning of the week as we were building this, it could have been any one of them. Every 5 minutes, I was changing my mind. These are all excellent wrestlers, and that's kind of the funny thing here. None of them are going to win. This is going to be a time limit draw. Nobody wins.
Nobody wins indeed. We do have to click a name, so the one you taught me to click earlier was Brooklyn. Oh my goodness! Did you already have a time limit draw in this feud?
I think maybe I had one with Mallory and Raven.
Maybe. That's unfortunate. I mean, look, at the end of the day, 3.5 stars, it's going to get dropped. All your other stuff is really strong, so I don't think it's a huge problem as long as the rest of your card lives up to what I believe it's capable of. It certainly gives some popularity for everybody. A nice overness boost for Raven is nice to see. But yeah, this is one of the things about finishes that I always find a little bit frustrating, is that it's hard to track what finishes you have or have not done in a feud unless you're going through and checking every previous match point for point when looking through a feud history.
I did one between Brooklyn Cambril and Raven. 1, 2, 3 pay-per-view cycles ago.
Yeah, see, that just also seems a little silly, right? Like, it was 3 months ago. That, like, the WWE has built an entire career off of, well, they're not going to remember what happened 3 months ago. That'd be crazy. I don't know. I think that's a little harsh, but at the end of the day, 3.5 stars, it's going to be fine. It's going to be dropped. But the question becomes, from your perspective, Walter, you were supposed to choose a number one contender based on the result of this. And with a time limit draw, who are you going to pick?
Well, I would say that Main in Japan is backstage here celebrating because no clear winner means there's no challenger for the champion. But I'm a prick. So Empress Kabuki will be facing all 3 of these women in a 4-way match at end times. It will be Empress Kabuki, the champion, against the challengers Brooklyn Cambril, Jessie Mallory, and Raven.
Well, that is the best case scenario, I think, for fans, because all 3 of these competitors are great. And I want to see them in the ring with the Empress. We'll just have to wait and see. The Empress has found ways in the past of tiring out potential competitors right before the pay-per-view. So I'll be very curious to see what happens next week on SWA Primetime. But we'll move on from now. And it looks like we have a 1v2 tag street fight match between Wesley Lee Morris and Baja Lucha. Rey Sangre has somehow agreed to get back in the ring with Wesley Lee Morris. How are we here?
The crazy thing is I don't think Rey Sangre agreed. It was more like Wesley Lee Morris came to me, threatened my life, demanded Rey Sangre in the match, and I said, I mean, you beat him last week, and he's like, yeah, and I'm not finished with him. And I said, okay. And then when I went to tell Ray, Surfista Hermano Santos kind of laughed in the background and went like, okay, that's funny. Mm-hmm. And he was like, well, you know what, boss, can we make it a 2-on-1 match to make it a little bit more interesting? And I said, hey, fuck it. I don't think either of you guys are beating Wesley Lee Morris on your own. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's why we have a 2-on-1 match between Wesley Lee Morris of Chort and the tag team Baja Lucha.
I mean, look, Surfisto and Mano Santos made a joke last week. If Wesley Lee Morris kills you, can I have your gear? And I have to imagine this is Ray Sangre going, hey, man, it looks like if I'm going down, you're going down with me. The question is Wesley Lee Morris someone who did lose at the pay-per-view to Ray Sangre? I mean, is it possible that the two are able to overcome Wesley, or does Wesley Lee Morris, filled with such rage after that fiasco, just smash both of these competitors into the dirt?
You know, Chase, I don't know if you've been keeping up with the lore of this Journey of Wrestling franchise as a whole. Maybe you've heard the tale of one Kenny Diaz, who had the audacity to ask for something so fucking ridiculous that Xander then spent the rest of his life punishing him for his audacity.
Yeah.
I forgot going into the last pay-per-view that Ray Sangre had asked to defeat a main eventer as a quest that I accepted. And Chase, happily reminded me, and I said, okay, well, who's like a main eventer I don't mind him losing to? And I looked around, I'm like, there's not really any great options. I was like, I guess Wesley Lee Morris, because it would then be funny if this fucking like monster of a man just murdered him for the next 3 weeks. So congratulations, Ray. I hope your win against a main eventer was worth it, because Wesley Lee Morris is still not finished with you.
No, he is not. But the fans are in. It's a hot match, and I believe that pushes the feud between Wesley Lee Morris and Ray Sangre hot. The fans want more. They want to see Wesley Lee Morris beat Ray Sangre to a pulp. I have to imagine that this is the last thing that Ray wanted to hear, but I have to imagine that you're pretty excited to know that you now have some room to really explore everything that this is capable of. And really, had it not been for a negative roll on Street Fight, I think this is a 4+ star match.
I think Ray would say, listen, if this is what it takes for me to get a paycheck this week, fuck it.
That's fair. Baja Lucha, aka Sir's not appearing in the tag tournament. Probably just happy to be here at the end of the day. But congrats to Wesley Lee Morris. I am happy for him that he's getting his revenge. And we'll see just how far this can go, because I don't know what it's going to take for Baja Lucha to take him down, should they get the rematch that the fans are clearly asking for.
Well, it might take them some reinforcements as Kaiichi Sakurai comes to the ring to stare down Wesley Lee Morris?
Yeah, now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think Kaiichi Sakurai has any connection to Baja Lucha. I don't know that they've interacted on the show. Do you have any idea what could be bringing him here?
I don't know. All I got was a notification from the truck that Sakurai had seen enough. He threw down his headset and muttered something in Japanese and then said, hit my music, and walked out there. So perhaps we have a new feud bubbling under here. Perhaps Wesley Lee Morris and Kaiichi Sakurai will be fighting against each other going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I think Kaiichi Sakurai is probably a level of competitor that can stand toe-to-toe with Wesley Lee Morris in a way that Ray Sangre just isn't at this point in his career. I am very excited to learn more from Sakurai. I don't know if we'll get him on the mic soon or if he's just going to let the fighting speak for himself. But this does set up a very interesting dynamic that I look forward to seeing explored. It is a 4.25 star segment, which is the best that stare downs can do. At this current time, at least. I think it's probably going to take 2 stare downs in order to get it to silver, where it can start perhaps being a 5-star segment in and of itself. But as it stands, I love the feud it's setting up. It's a strong start to this feud with a 59 base to work from. So very excited to see what's next. But I'm even more excited for our main event here. Walter, what brought this 4v4 fight together?
This is the continuation of the Dominatus Tenebris Prodigy feud, which in reality is a Tyler Dynamite versus Dominatus Tenebris feud, kind of as a whole. Tyler Dynamite, made his hay in the SWA, defeating Wesley Lee Morris in that best of 7 series that they had, turning babyface in the process. I don't want to speak for Christopher Devlin, but to my trained kind of wrestling fandom, it does feel like maybe he was threatened by sort of the meteoric rise of the young Tyler Dynamite. And, he's been kind of on the side. He's kind of been like picking and choosing his spots when he's wrestled against Eddie Davis or Assassino, or when he's been, attacking Devlin or the rest of the Dominatus Tenebris roster backstage, and sort of pairing himself off a couple of times with Axel Dust or with Chase, who were also having their moments with Dominatus Tenebris. And now that kind of everything has sort of spread itself back out, right? The lads aren't really dealing with Christopher Devlin. They are, their own tag team off doing their own thing. Tyler Dynamite, found some friends in Prodigy. Tyson Morriso, working back in his heyday with Tyler Dynamite's father, who, wasn't the greatest wrestler and had to make the tough choice of giving up on what was his dream. That way he could take care of the ultimate job, his ultimate responsibility, which was being a good father and taking care of his family. Morriso and even Devontae Harrell have said to Tyler Dynamite, like, hey, listen, look, once you're champion, I can't fucking promise anything. But for right now, we'll get your back, right? We'll hold your back here just because we understand Dominatus Tenebris is such a large task to deal with. Obviously, prodigious Jordan Wolf and D'Angelo Starr do hold the guaranteed title match against Hollywood Bound, which are members of Dominatus Tenebris, Joey Stone and Cairo Oliver. This is kind of a let's throw the factions against each other. Obviously, Devlin is not going to show up for the second weekly and, just sully himself with this. This is what he has his faction for. This is what he can do, is he can send out Eddie Davis and Joey Stone and Cairo Oliver and Thomas Austin with Assassino. I can confirm Christopher Devlin isn't even in the building tonight. He didn't show up. He wasn't needed. So he has left his henchmen essentially to deal with the budding superstar that is Tyler Dynamite and his I guess we'll call them friends.
Yeah, I mean, it sure seems that way for now. Prodigy, it's been fun seeing them kind of bond around Tyler Dynamite. It's made them more interesting as a faction. At least, I am the face announcer here, so of course I'm a fan of the face faction and the turn that they brought in with such a moving speech from Tyson Morriso. But it is kind of fascinating. You talked before about, the chicken shit heel throwing in these protectors. And sure, Devlin wasn't in the building tonight, so he couldn't take care of it even if he wanted to. But this does feel like, hey, I've got people to do this for me, right? And when your people are Hollywood Bound, the current tag champions, Thomas Austin, who just got over, and Eddie Davis, who sure does need to win something at some point, it's worth sending them in and really pushing Prodigy to the limits. The question is it enough?
Chase, you would think that with all of the successes that Dominatus Tenebris have, like you said, currently the tag team champions, Thomas Austin getting over with the fans, having Assassino, who is someone that can get physical, right? Tyson Morriso is not really able to get into the ring and take or give a punch. You would think they have an overwhelming track record here, but it is going to be Prodigy that gets the win, right? It is sort of, why is Assassino on the sidelines? Why isn't he in this match? I get Thomas Austin just got over with the fans, but why is he in here when Assassino is a better wrestler? Why isn't he the one that's out there to fight him? And as you can see, Prodigy are able to take advantage of that. And I think this squarely places Tyler Dynamite as the number one contender for Christopher Devlin's belt.
I mean, it certainly feels that way to me. I mean, I love the hot match that we saw here. Really helps boost a lot of different feuds. Love to see the overness for everybody, popularity boost for everyone, morale boost for everyone. It's a 4.5 star match, and we'll see. I think it ends up with a 4.5 star card, which is matching your result from last week. That gets you to 9 stars total. Unfortunately, that's going to put you slightly behind Xander, who got a 4.75 tonight. And I really do think, if, even something as simple as like, if Stare Down had leveled up and could go a little bit further, or if you hadn't low rolled on a street fight, or the time limit draw hadn't already been done before, I think you get there. That said, 4.5 star, still very successful, a very good show. How do you feel about your overall result tonight?
I'm happy. Listen, I'm not happy with the numbers, right? But I'm never going to be happy with the numbers in this game. I disagree with some of the design choices that the developer has made.
Yeah.
Well documented. I can't say I can't go any further than that. I am happy with the storytelling, and hey, why do I have Trixie Albright in a match when she's frankly numerically terrible? Well, she's never going to get better if I never fucking use her.
True.
And I am not someone that is just going to throw 30 people into random battle royales and elimination matches just for the hell of it because I want to get every single person on my card. That's just not how I think. Now, I do have a tag team battle royale next week for who's going to challenge Prodigious for their tag team title contract. So I guess that's a little, whoops. I can't really throw stones at glass houses, but that is happening next week. And, we're building towards what I think is going to be another really good pay-per-view. I'm excited to see where these storylines take us.
Yeah, I love the storylines that you're building. And hey, the stuff like you said about building up people like Trixie Albright, assuming that a season 2 of this competition happens, that long-term investment is going to go a long way. So I think you'll be happy that you did it. Certainly, you'll be a lot further along than any of the Lethals have ever been in Xander's promotion. But we do move on, and we do move to the Campeonato de Luchasaur. Eduardo with a 4.75 last week wants to keep building on that. He's had a very interesting philosophy, right? I think compared to the rest of us, he's much more focused on the balls and strikes, so to speak. A lot of feuds that go back and forth. I don't think he has a single wrestler with fewer than 3 losses at his company. Everybody is capable of being brought down on the right day by the right person. And I'm very excited to see some of these feuds really come together and see what things look like now that poor Kyle Cage, a heartbreaking moment last week where he tore his quad in the ring, won the match, but had to vacate his Nova Championship title. We will have to see, perhaps, if we learn anything new about that. Are you ready to jump on into it?
I am. I'm very excited, and unfortunately, because of how we time things due to differing time zones, I haven't gotten to see a lot of what Eduardo's been doing with the Campeonato de Lucha. So I'm very excited to see what he's got in store for me. Although I did see the injury to Kyle Cage, that is quite unfortunate.
Yeah, as someone who has gotten a lot of severe injuries on a 1% or less hit rate, I felt that deep in my soul. And I hope that no one else experiences that between now and the end of the year. But what I also hope is that this tag street fight match between the Hiroshima Hotties and the Constellation goes well. Because, look, longtime CDLS fans will remember that the Hiroshima Hotties became the first ever Guardianes del Pucaro Masculino champions by beating the Constellation 4 times in a row. The division wasn't as fleshed out as it was today. A team like the Constellation was seen as one of the higher ranked teams at the time. But the Constellation have put in a lot of work. They have tried to build themselves back up. Tanner Reicho and Clayton Brown, put in a little bit of singles work, have been hoping for revenge for those losses at First Blood and Coup de Grace, and they see a Hiroshima Hotties that are no longer champions after dropping the title to Psycho Circus at Resistance and losing once again at Burn It Down. So you've got, on one hand, the Constellation trying to claw their way back up, trying to get revenge for past grievances, bringing this feud that blew off 6 months ago back to the surface, while the Hiroshima Hotties need to bounce back from their losses to Psycho Circus, prove they're better than the Constellation, and use this renewed rivalry as a warm-up as they try to work their way back into the title picture with the legendary El Arcangel de Fuego behind him. Walter, who do you think Eduardo gave the nod to?
I like that he is going back to the well of a previous feud, right? I like that that's kind of why you do things long term, right? You have matches that happened 8-9 months ago, and now you can come back to them, and there's still a story to be told there, right? Hiroshi Mahadi's winning 4 matches in a row. This is a great opportunity for the Constellation to prove that they have gotten better. And I am going to say the 5th time is the charm, and the Constellation is going to get the win here tonight.
You are absolutely right. The Constellation does get the win. And look at that. It's a 5.25-star match with a holy shit moment as Clayton Brown hits Toru Miyamura with a finisher off the top rope. You love to see it. I mean, honestly, it's one of the fun things about bringing some feuds back to the surface. You get a chance for the fans who are already invested in these wrestlers. It's a hot match that kind of boosts everybody up. And now you have this question, the Constellation just 21 points away from being main eventers in their own right. How far can they climb? Can they earn a match against Psycho Circus at an upcoming pay-per-view before the year runs out? At the very least, they've kept their hopes of that alive, and I'm sure Constellation fans are very happy to see that tonight.
I think that's the point, right? You got to build these guys back up to create challengers for your title belts, and I love it. I love the long form storytelling here of a long form feud of them finally getting their win back after all this time.
Absolutely. But we move on now. We got a quick recap package. This was recapping the match between Jason Cortez and Caden Lee from last week. Caden Lee and Jason Cortez were the top rated match last week, 5.25 stars. A feat he's already matched so far tonight. Caden Lee, he was clearly struggling after being forced to join the Carnival of Carnage, having lost a feud to Jason Styles. But at the end of the day, I think seeing Made in Japan, his former faction, of which he was the leader for quite some time, move on, finally helped him realize, I have to keep going. I can't let myself drown in where I want to be because this is where I am. And it finally gave him what he needed to defeat Jason Cortez after losing the first 2 matches in that feud. Jason Cortez is feeling the weight of La Sagrada Familia falling off a little bit, losing 2 different titles to Eclipse at the last pay-per-view. And perhaps the pressure of that getting to him a little bit. It's a very fun feud that I'm sure we're going to see more of in the future. This package maybe not the best way of highlighting that. I've always had kind of mediocre performances from recap packages. I can't really tell what it is that's necessary to make them go well outside of just have producers who are good at doing production things. But it's 3.5 stars, and it gives Jason and Caden a little bit more of a popularity boost. So I suppose it's fine at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think it's just just a bad roll, unfortunately, and hopefully this doesn't ruin the card going forward.
Yeah, well, he's still got plenty of matches left to go, including this match between Amber Manning and Lulu Cherry. Now, Amber Manning is still trying to capture that one glorious moment where she took the Campeonato Cuyan Championship away from Layla Abelos back at Deadly Gambit before dropping it just the next month at Make Your Choice, which I'm sure was not Eduardo getting back at Xander for convincing him to pick Amber Manning only for the match to be one of his lowest scoring at Deadly Gambit, and then punishing her with a loss at the very next pay-per-view. But look, Amber Manning, she's 3-11 as a competitor, right? She's a former volleyball champion whose one kind of consistency is her grit and her tenacity, right? She is always asking for another opportunity, another match. There's no loss that stops her from wanting to push forward and being the best that she can be. And Lulu Cherry's kind of in a similar spot, right? She is one half of Bittersweet, who has held the Guardianes del Pucara Femenino Championship more than any other women's tag team with 3 different reigns. But that belt has kind of struggled to maintain legitimacy, right? It's changed hands 6 times in 9 months. And as a result, since Bittersweet haven't had a chance to really take the belt back since Deadly Gambit in June, Lulu Cherry's turning to singles competition, right? This is her opportunity to set herself apart. And sure, she couldn't get the win at Burn It All Down, but she did have a nice win against Violetta in July, which shows that she is capable of beating some of these top tier faces in the company. The question is, does she have what it takes to do so tonight in what is the first true 1v1 these two competitors have had? Because they've been in group matches before, but never just head-to-head like they are in tonight's street fight.
I think Amber Manning takes it. I think she's closer to becoming a potential face of the company. Listen, the record doesn't look great, but she has a lot more one-on-one matches built into that win-loss record. As you said, Lulu Cherry mainly being a tag team member of Bittersweet. So I say Amber Manning gets the win tonight.
You are correct. This is a big one for her. It stops the losing streak. It's a hot match for both of them, which is great to see. A nice popularity and overness boost for both. It's a 4.25 star match, so not necessarily the highest score possible, but certainly a solid one. And I think the effect for Amber Manning and Lulu Cherry ultimately is the thing that matters here, right? You mentioned the face of the company journey. Amber Manning just 22 points away from starting that herself. And Lulu Cherry, you know, it's a tough loss to be sure, but there's nothing to be ashamed about from losing to a former champion, right? This is her really just starting that singles journey. Outside of that one win against Violetta, she has not found that one breakthrough moment. And we'll see if this can propel her to make some further challenges, or whether she falls back onto those tag routes and tracks down her partner and sees if Bittersweet can move forward in other ways.
Yeah, I think that's the right decision.
But this one, as the face here, I find this one tough to watch because this is an injury gloat segment from El Cuervo. Kyle Cage, as far as I'm concerned, that injury in the Nova Championship was an absolute tragedy for everyone. But apparently it was for everyone not named El Cuervo, because he has come out to the ring to brag about his work here. He has pointed to Kyle as fragile, that this torn quad is a sign of his weakness, because El Cuervo knows the things that Kyle Cage is ashamed of, right? He remembers the first feud Kyle Cage ever had at the very beginning of the Campeonato de Luchasaur. El Cuervo crushed him 3-1, including a pole match victory that he believes he could have easily replicated if he had enough time, right? And sure, people can point out that El Cuervo also got injured for a considerable period of time. It took a Wolverine-esque recovery to bring him back so he can get in that extended feud with Conrad Supernova and hold the Toki Championship for a bit. But right now, he's just saying, Kyle Cage, it's better for you that you're injured right now, because you have never been good enough to defeat me. You weren't then, and you wouldn't have been now. And at least this way, when I take the title, you won't have to admit that you lost it. And I gotta be honest, that's tough for me to hear, but I imagine you're more of a fan.
Listen, it's not even the heel niche of it, right? This is when something bad happens like this, you have to capitalize on it. And I think that Eduardo is taking a page right out of the Drew McIntyre playbook right now. CM Punk gets hurt, can't be at WrestleMania as a wrestler, and Drew McIntyre, who it's very clear they were going to build a feud towards eventually between him and CM Punk, is immediately hopping on Twitter, does the John Mulaney graveyard meme pointing at the tombstone that says CM Punk's WrestleMania moment. They made a t-shirt off of it. When shit happens, sometimes you gotta take those lemons and make it into lemonade. And I think this is an excellent choice by Eduardo to go ahead and capitalize on this.
That's not actually John Mulaney in that meme, is it? I need to clarify, because I feel
Is it not? Because it really looks like him.
I know that is a joke that it is him, but I don't think that is I don't think that's actually him. We'll have to go to the research in the booth. Maybe someone will tell us before the end of this episode. But
Oh, it's Grant Gustin.
got
Okay,
it.
so this is from The Flash.
Got it. That would make more sense.
Gotcha.
Incredible. But yeah, no, I mean, I agree with everything you just said. I honestly love the injury gloat idea. I wish that I had realized that that was a segment back when Red Arrow first got injured at the very beginning of Magically Enhanced Wrestling. But I'm glad to see it do well. Amazingly, this wasn't a low roll by any means, but it could go even higher in the future. Glad his producer Vince Bailey gave him a little bit of a boost, and we'll see what El Cuervo does with it. He's talking a big game right now, but the Nova Championship remains up for grabs. I have heard rumblings that perhaps a tournament might be in the works for this vacated title, but we will have to see what Eduardo has in store at a later point in time. Because we're moving on now to an I Quit match between Requiem Avilo and Adriano Cicelli. And Walter, it would be understandable if you did not remember why these two wrestlers hate each other, because Adriano, up until a couple weeks ago, really didn't think much about Requiem Avilo. This was the guy he left behind, right? He defeated Requiem 4-0 in a feud in the first few months of the Campeonato de Luchasaur, rose up the ranks, eventually became a Campeonato Antu champion for several months. And while that title was not that long ago, he is on a 4-match loss streak right now and desperately needs to bounce his way back, which you can't do by underestimating Requiem Avilo. Because Requiem, while Adriano was going off to these great heights, right? Requiem was basically abandoned within the Campeonato de Luchasaur. He fell into that, terrible kind of black hole that some wrestlers end up into, where there's a limited number of match slots, but you want everyone to wrestle on the pay-per-view. Everyone outside of the SWA, of course. I know you don't subscribe to that particular philosophy, but Campeonato de Luchasaur certainly does. And so he was just in multi-man matches. This legit murderer basically existed to lose to Adriano Cicelli and then to lose in multi-man matches at pay-per-views. And at some point, he got fed up. He said, I want revenge for the life that Adriano put me on, right? I lost that feud due to some bullshit months ago, and he took the opportunity that should have been mine, and I'm going to take it back, and I'm going to prove to everyone that he was never deserving of the opportunities the way that I am. And he got his win in August. Requiem finally got his first victory, but it's not enough for him. He's demanded an I Quit match, and he wants to prove that he is the stronger man, that Adriano's title run has only made him weak and complacent compared to the hunger that Requiem has built. So that's the question in front of us here. Is Adriano able to bounce back, remind everyone why he is, if he had a match at the next pay-per-view, on his way to becoming a face of the company? Or does Requiem Avilo put him in his place tonight?
I've already picked two baby faces to win tonight. And I feel like the better story is to go with Requiem here. But I feel like there might be some min-maxing here. Adriano Cicelli right there at becoming a potential face of the company. But he's 39. Like, he could retire next month. Fuck it, Requiem. It's a better story.
You trusted in the story, and you were right. Requiem Avilo is winning this match. Here's the thing you need to understand about Eduardo's min-maxing. Whenever there's a question of, well, if it goes poorly, then he could drop popularity, Eduardo's response is, but he won't, though. And
that's fair.
And it worked out really well. It's a hot feud now. It's a hot match that boosted Requiem's overness quite a bit. It's now at max. A huge popularity boost for Requiem, but enough of one for Adriano. He has continued his path. It's a 4 3/4 star match, which looks great on paper. The I Quit match is still gaining experience, so it's a valuable step in that direction. And I have to imagine if you're Eduardo watching this right now, you're feeling pretty darn good about how all this shook out.
Yeah, I think you would be very excited that you got to do what you wanted to story-wise, and he still gets to go up into face of the company status.
Absolutely. And Requiem, I just think he's a very fun. It's always good to have a legit murderer in your corner, and I like this kind of revenge story that Eduardo's built. But we move on now to a feud package highlighting Brady Velasquez and Daiwick Damerla. Um, and it's funny. This was not a hot segment, but it did push the feud hot. So I guess congratulations to Eduardo for that, even if the score didn't seem like the kind of score that would accomplish that goal. But hey, maybe the fans are just as entranced with the story of this feud as I am, right? Because it is not only the classic School of the Crab with El Tigre de Neon versus School of the Phoenix with Arcangel de Fuego, but it is a feud between two wrestlers in Daiwick Damerla and Brady Velasquez who have had flashes of brilliance against top-tier opponents, for whom winning a feud like this would push them to great heights, would make them number one contenders for some of the top belts that this company has to offer. But most of their feuds they've had so far, they've come close, they've been within a match, but they've fallen just short when it comes to the blow-off. They both need this badly. And I think this feud package focuses on how much this win would mean to both of these competitors if they were able to secure it. Now, unfortunately, it's only a 3 3/4 star segment. I don't think this is Philip Keller's best work that he has put together, but at the end of the day, it does push the feud hot, and that's probably more important at the end of the day.
I mean, pushing the feud hot, that can make or break certain feuds and the length and what you would like to do with them. So, I guess you take kind of a middling segment here, but to get it hot, that is huge.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, he can drop that one alongside with the one we saw earlier, and he'll still be okay. He just needs to nail these last few slots. And I mean, this is a great way to start. It's a triple threat street fight between Ty Flaw, Nightmare Blue, and Hart Jones. And now Nightmare Blue and Hart Jones began a feud at Burn It Down, where the two of them fought fiercely in a head-to-head match, or in a multi-group match, but it was Nightmare Blue who set up Hart Jones to fail and made it easy for Liam Draco to make Hart the first man out in that elimination match, something that Hart wants revenge for, right? Now, Hart Jones, he's a member of Corazones de Lucha. He has limited solo experience, but a win here would open some doors for him in solo competition and give him a new path to follow when the Corazones de Lucha aren't making a title push for the tag belt. Now, Nightmare Blue didn't win that multi-man match, and he's facing his past here in addition to his present with the resurgence of this feud against Ty Flaw. This was one of the first feuds in the Campeonato de Luchasaur. It was a 2-2 split between those two competitors, with Nightmare ultimately winning a blow-off tables match at Starlight. But Ty Flaw has been on the rise, right? He recently won his feud against Brady Velasquez and sees this as an opportunity to get revenge for the feud that got away early in his career, while simultaneously potentially boosting him into face of the company status. So you've got Nightmare Blue with two faces on either side of him, one of whom wanting revenge for the past, who's gone on to great things since, even if that 4-12 record doesn't necessarily point to it. It's the cruelty of multi-man matches, a lot of losses compared to wins to go around, versus the guy who wants to make a name for himself in solo competition, and the heel stuck in the middle of both of them, who has been hoping that he can get some more wins under his belt when it matters most. So in this triple threat street fight, who do you think's getting the nod?
I'm going to say Nightmare Blue, and it is because the revenge that Ty Flaw is looking for is going to get in the way of him actually being successful and able to win. This is something that AEW has used quite recently in a trios match between Hangman Adam Page, Samoa Joe, and Swerve Strickland. Swerve and Hangman have been having a blood feud where Swerve basically invaded Hangman's house, talked to his baby in his crib, and then hung the man with a steel chain during a like unsanctioned Texas death match. Swerve was the heel in that feud, but came out the babyface, and there was this match between the three of them, and Hangman kept preventing Swerve from winning because he just couldn't let Swerve win. Right? That's the entire thing. He was never going to allow Swerve to win, which then let the heel champion Samoa Joe run away with the title.
I have to say, Walter, you've been 3 for 3 so far in picking winners tonight. And you're about to make it 4 for 4 because that is exactly what happens. It is as if you have read the script, or perhaps you both have a love for professional wrestling that means you're drawing from similar influences. Whatever the case, you're 100% right. It leads to a 5-star match, a victory for Nightmare Blue here. No holy shit moment or anything like that, but a nice start, a restart, I should say, to Ty Flaw versus Nightmare Blue. And this gives Ty Flaw something to climb back for, right? It wouldn't be nearly as rewarding if he just got a win right away when he's trying to seek revenge in this multi-man match. And I think you called exactly why.
Yeah, no, I like it. Eduardo and I are on the same page.
Well, we move on now. This is an event package highlighting his upcoming pay-per-view, Spirit Fury. And there you go, Eduardo. That's a 4+ star package. You said it was impossible. You said the Campeonato de Luchasaur will never have one of those. And here we are with a package that was bronze when you set it up and is now leveled up accordingly. So congrats to you, Eduardo, on that. I'm sure that'll make you happy to see. But look, the fans are just happy because Spirit Fury is going to have some incredible matches, right? At the end of the day, there's, Isamu Masucci is going to be defending the Campeonato Andino belt. There's the faction feud between the dominant Eclipse and the hungry La Sagrada Familia. But I think this package largely focuses on the vacant Nova Championship. It's still not sure whether there's going to be like a full-on tournament the way that the Harold G. Vincent Cup worked, or whether we're going to see some qualification matches next week culminating in a finals at the pay-per-view. But what we do know is that El Cuervo and Chakal Pro, the two people who were in the ring against Kyle Cage when he went down, are going to be there, and they are hungry to take this Nova Championship for themselves.
Okay. I dig it. I'm down. I like it. I like where he's going.
Yeah, I do too. And I like this last match we have here. It is a triple threat street fight between Madison Marlowe, Pink Arrow, and Juno Ripshaw. And look, Madison Marlowe has been skyrocketing up the card recently. I know 3-8 doesn't look like the kind of skyrocketing, but she's 2-0 in her feud against Pink Arrow, including a 1v1 victory at a weekly show in July. And at the 6-way match at Burn It Down, she managed to emerge victorious. She's finally found her footing with the fans, and going over recently, pushing her from a 3-3 to a 4-4, I think has done a lot for her overall potential. Meanwhile, Pink Arrow kind of bit off perhaps a bit more than she could chew when she first accepted an open challenge against Hae Lee, then the holder of the greatest championship at Make Your Choice. And she struggled when dividing her time against attempting to take down Hae Lee and keeping up with the rise of Madison Marlowe. But now that feud against Hae Lee ended at Resistance, Pink Arrow, on a 6-match losing streak, has nothing else to focus on but trying to turn things around and keep Madison Marlowe down. Because a corrupted wrestler like her is dangerous if Madison keeps climbing up this card. But meanwhile, Juno Ripshaw, I mean, she's currently 5-11, but she's had some recent victories against powerhouses like Suki Akiyama. She is a member of the League of Extraordinary Ladies. And if she's going to maintain that role, she needs to step up against someone that she previously lost a feud to. And that would be Pink Arrow. Pink Arrow beat her 4-2. Culminating with a submission match at Starlight. And Juno has never quite shaken this off, right? She's obviously done some better things since then. Her record has seen some big moments, but this Pink Arrow is someone that she has wanted to get revenge against for some time. And while Pink Arrow may be ready to fight on Madison Marlowe. And she may even be open to the idea of keeping Juno Ripshaw down. Doing both at once in a triple threat is a difficult challenge to overcome. So the question is, Walter, do you believe the Pink Arrow has what it takes to do what Nightmare Blue did just one match ago? Or does one of Madison Marlowe or Juno Ripshaw manage to secure a victory here as Pink Arrow's attention is divided?
Well, I do believe Pink Arrow's attention is divided, and I don't think Eduardo is going to do the same thing in back-to-back matches. So now it just comes down to, what is the better story? Madison Marlowe being the one to get the win as we sort of renew this rivalry with Pink Arrow, or Juno Ripshaw reassuring her place as a leader of that faction. And in my attempt to go undefeated in picking Eduardo's matches, give me Juno Ripshaw.
Ah, you were doing so well. But it is Madison Marlowe getting the win. And it's a 5 1/4 star match. The interesting story boost, the game clearly likes the choice here. It's a huge boost for her. I think at the end of the day, Juno Ripshaw, she's not the leader of the League of Extraordinary Ladies, just someone trying to hold on to her spot. And this maybe forces her to think through some things, get herself in order. No holy shit moment. It was a relatively cheap card, so Eduardo can take a hit on that. But the real key here is that's a 5 1/4 star match being doubled for the sake of scoring. And it does lead to his second 4.75 in a row. That keeps him on pace and keeps him above Xander in this competition. Any thoughts on this card as we reach the conclusion here?
Yeah, really well done. Like I said, up until the last match, kind of in the same headspace as Eduardo on a lot of these matches. And I do think, you said that Eduardo has, some differing thoughts from all of us. Everybody has multiple losses, but I do think, kind of philosophically, Eduardo and I really do operate inside the same headspace of how, what we think wrestling should sort of be, and, have a lot of background watching wrestling. And I think you and Xander are, much more into the game mechanics and trying to optimize the game to give you the most successes. And I think I appreciate the fact that Eduardo can kind of stay with his approach and has been as successful as he has been, especially in the last couple of weeks here.
Yeah, look, he's done an incredible job, right? It is proof that the min-maxing of things like hype only gets you so far, right? If the matches are good, if you're putting the right wrestlers against each other, building out their stories where it matters, setting up individual blow-off moments that feel earned and justified, the game will reward you for it, right? There's not one way to play. There's just one way that gives you as much consistency as you can in kind of tiebreaker situations. But that's not the thing that's ever held you or Eduardo up, and I am glad that it is done as well for him as it has. But I'll also be honest here, as someone who tied with Eduardo last week, I'm hoping that I have a card tonight that can keep up with him, if nothing else. I've got a couple new feuds coming down the pipeline, some new title feuds that are going to set things up for our upcoming show at Pact of Doom. We have Arsenico, the Sorcerer Supreme, after cashing in at the last at Crown of Madness, continuing his reign of terror. I don't know if you saw, but he has indeed made his heel turn finally, Walter. So we can stop making jokes that the cult leader sure seems like more of a heel than a face.
Excellent.
100%. Yeah, for sure. The game
that's great to hear.
Yeah, the game didn't like that I did that. They didn't like that I switched it back too soon after the last alignment change that I did. I don't care. It makes it he was a sheep, a wolf in sheep's clothing, and the sheep clothing has gone off, and I'm okay with where that leads, and I'm excited to show you what I have planned. So shall we jump on in?
Absolutely. I'm very excited to see you fail to overtake Eduardo tonight.
Thanks, buddy. We move to
You know what you did.
I do. Oh boy. So it turns out I have found the maximum for reputation for a faction. So that's cool. Yeah, so let's talk about it. Independence, right? Arsenico, our cult leader, comes to the ring and points to last week's episode of Wild Magic as exactly what his leadership is going to bring to the MEW, right? He told the audience that Independence will have no problem defeating the Southern Sentries, and they had a 100% win rate in their matches against the Southern Sentries last week. Arsenico called for someone to put an end to the reign of the cowardly El Muerte Blanco. And Ashton Nieves, who was his second in command, answered the call in a dangerous attack that has sidelined El Muerte Blanco for at least 3 months. And as a result, Ashton has brought in the 2 members of No Bullshit from a disbanded Northern Nightmare to come in and formally join Independence. But this is perhaps not exactly what they expected when they were signing up for a faction, right? You know, Northern Nightmare would do this by a bunch of guys getting drinks at a bar and coming together to plan what comes next. In the case of Independence, Johnny Scott, the attractive singer who is the right-hand man of Arsenico, the speaker for their leader, is singing some Latin hymns as some incense pervades its way through the arena, and there is a baptism for these new members of Independence, something that Ashton kind of handles in stride, and Vance Porter and Hideo Dotto of No Bullshit look very confused about. But at the end of the day, Arsenico claims that these 3 will be propelled to new heights under Independence, just like Larger Than Life was. But there is one thing that is worth noting that the game does not get right, because it doesn't give you the option to do this. You see Techno Boy here? No, you don't. Techno Boy is not here when the segment happens.
Gotcha. Okay. Techno Boy was not there.
Techno Boy's not there. He's nowhere to be found. Which, gotta wonder what that means for his place within Independence.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if you're adding newcomers that have already, proven themselves by betraying their former faction mates.
Yes, absolutely. Well, in this, this is 3 heels coming in, right? So you take a faction that was all faces. Adrian Lorenzo gets headhunted in. He's a heel. Arsenico turns heel. Monty Hendricks turns heel. And then they bring in 3 more heels. This is now a 50-50 face and heel faction. And that's going to lead to some very interesting power plays, especially given that it is a heel at the top of the organizational charts here in Arsenico.
I feel a civil war coming down the pipeline.
What? No. Are you saying that Techno Boy not being here is perhaps the start that maybe not everyone's on board with this new plan?
I would never say that, Chase, because I can see it. Techno Boy is right there. He's sitting right there.
No, you don't.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, no. So yeah, it's a 5-star segment. I'll take it. I do find it fascinating that this puts Independence at the max reputation a faction can have. I wonder if it lets me save that overflow so that when the Civil War inevitably happens, they're not just sent into the dirt because the Civil War, for whatever reason, causes a massive popularity hit to everyone from the former faction for reasons that definitely make sense and are cool and good. So we'll see if that gives me enough wiggle room here. But for now, I'm just happy that the fans are on board and Independence truly strengthening themselves to a crazy extent here. But we cut to a video package here for the Eastern Elite, which did not go well, apparently. Which, to be fair, I guess is a reflection of the Eastern Elite themselves, right? You know, Fishbone had a successful reign as the Sorcerer Supreme, holding off Derek Nash and Victor Magnus, but after what some could argue was a cheap cash-in by Arsenico after he had just fought this massive Iron Man match, Fishbone has to fight his way back to the top. And he needs to do so while Eli Chaos and Fuerza de Dragon, who are, you know, meant to be his remaining solo competitors, you know, they're good guys, but they've struggled to get victories because they care a lot about doing things the right way, even when it puts them into disadvantageous situations. You know, you have Liquid Steel, right? The former Jester's Joust champions, but they've lost 4 matches in a row against their former faction mates and Larger Than Life, who left to join Independence. The only real rise right now has been Out of This World as the tag team that wants to challenge for the belt in the very near future, especially now that the heels in Hall of Ashes just took it from Magic Missiles at Crown of Madness. So the Eastern Elite, there's a lot of potential here, right? A lot of opportunity for these individual people to make a rise in the long run, but they have made a powerful enemy in Independence. Or you could argue a powerful enemy was made for them. And the road back to being the top tier faction they once were is going to be quite difficult.
Yeah, this feud does not feel like it is Eastern Elite that have started the feud. It does feel like Independence has said, "Yeah, we're gonna fuck you up."
Yes. Arsenico, you missed it last week, but he straight up said that Fishbone failed as a leader because he allowed groups like the Hellfire Club to rise and cause chaos. And Shane Mack, one of the members of Independence, specifically called out Glory of Legends as an example of how a leader like Johnny Hangtime allows for chaos and pillaging and, you know, threats that undermine the company as a whole that Independence simply will not tolerate. So it's been a lot of shade thrown by Independence specifically, as the Eastern Elite are just kind of left wondering, what the hell did we do to you to deserve this?
Existed.
Yeah, you were in our way is the answer for sure.
You existed.
3.25 stars. What are you going to do? What we're going to do is move on. Because as I mentioned, Fuerza de Dragon, he needs a win, right? He is 1-6 right now in solo competition. But Adrian Lorenzo, having just been recruited into Independence, has been given an assignment to take down Fuerza de Dragon and ensure that the Eastern Elite understand that no one is safe from Arsenico's divine judgment. Now, perhaps Adrian would be a little bit reluctant to do so if it wasn't for the fact that he already is feuding against Fuerza de Dragon. He was one of the 4 people to beat the crap out of Fuerza de Dragon in a handicap beatdown segment on the Go Home show before Crown of Madness. So this is just him being told to do what he already wanted to do. You've got Fuerza de Dragon. He's got an average match rating of 5.57. He puts on nothing but bangers every time he's in the ring. But he's mostly been the guy who's had to step up and help the Eastern Elite when they need a multi-man match. He doesn't have the same history of independent, kind of solo matches. Whereas Adrian's losses have largely come at the expense of his now faction leader, Arsenico. His only win was beating up Johnny Scott in a shut the fuck up match, which is nice and all, but Johnny Scott loses to everybody, so it's hardly an impressive feat. So the question is, can Fuerza de Dragon use the momentum that he got at Bonds of Destiny with a win over Victor Magnus, Jackson Hall, and Asher Collins? Or does Adrian Lorenzo, now in Independence, use his hunger to prove himself and the lingering hatred that the Southern Sentries already had for the Eastern Elite before Independence declared total war, and use that to propel himself to victory?
Yeah, no, this is Adrian Lorenzo 100%. It's not even close. He's the one that is on the come up because of where Independence is, and you're just at the beginning of the Independence storyline, right? They just came into power, and what does it look like if he immediately fucking loses?
I mean, look, when you're right, you're right. Yeah, Adrian Lorenzo 100% needs to win this match. But it's a 5-star match because, again, Forza de Dragon only knows how to make bangers.
That is helpful.
Yeah, it does help. It's a hot match. Adrian Lorenzo now just 14 points away from becoming a face of the company when you add in the benefit of that new blood segment, which is kind of insane that I have a 2-9 wrestler that's about to start a face of the company journey. But hey, I'm not going to argue with it, especially when it continues to push that Total War feud and push their individual feud, which I'm hoping I'll get some more mileage out of as we move forward. But we move on now to a smack talk segment between Ariana Black, the leader of the Scourge of the Underdark, and Lorena Lucier, the head of the Sky Sentinels and the current Sorceress Supreme. You know, Ariana Black starts in the ring here and calls out Lorena Lucier, saying that this extended run has been fraudulent because truly she's avoided fighting the true queen of the MEW because Ariana wasn't fighting for that title. She had the Frost Witch title. And so they haven't had a match that truly proves which one of them is the greatest leader within their factions. Now, Lorena is, of course, quick to remind her that Ariana lost the Frost Witch belt to the Sky Sentinel second in command. But Ariana's like, look, I have a spotless record beyond that one tiny little mistake that was really just a fluke at the end of the day. And Duca is really just lucky that my attention was needed elsewhere. I had all these things going on with the Hellfire Club that I needed to deal with. I had a faction that had lost its discipline, and I took care of business. There's nothing to be ashamed of there. And Lorena's like, you know what? You're right. I respect how personally you handled the Hellfire Club. You put in the work, but you have been ruling the Scourge with an iron fist that is inevitably going to backfire, the same way that it did for Viuda Negra not 2 months ago. And look, you can say that I'm soft, Ariana, but I'm proved that's not true. I beat Tilly in a casket match. I was unfazed when she literally tried to blow me up with a car bomb. I have everything I need to take you on. And Ariana's like, look, we're going to settle this in the ring at Pact of Doom. And I'm going to prove that I have more to offer to this company, to this world that we have built than you ever could. And Lorena just responds, look, Ariana, let's face it. If that's what you really believed, you wouldn't have started with the less prestigious Frost Witch belt. You knew you were vulnerable if you wrestled the best of the best. And what do you think is going to happen when that weakness is exposed to people like Tilly? And Lorena ends up winning the segment here. But this end of the reign has now started, and we are going to see these two faction leaders go head to head, hopefully for a considerable period of time.
That is a very solid clapback, right? Of like, well, if you really really were as good, why'd you go to the less prestigious title? To which, if I was Ariana Black, I would come running backstage to Chase and be like, yeah, why did you put me in with the less prestigious title?
Look, she had other things. Ariana Black has branded herself as the most hands-on faction leader in this company. She is always willing to put herself in the ring to fight the people who she believes has wronged her faction. It has hurt her at times, and it has perhaps lowered her ambition in the past. But she's going to try to prove that that was all her making sacrifices. It wasn't her being afraid. It was her putting her faction first. And we'll see if she's right. But for now, it's a 4.5-star segment. I'll take it. I'll take a 73 starting point for this feud here between the two of them. And I do say I do like the smack talk segments. I like the back and forth trash talking. Gives me a chance to get some good character building in for multiple competitors at once, and I'm glad the fans seem to be liking it.
Yeah, no, it's a really good choice. I like it.
Well, thank you kindly. We will move on, though, to a match between the Scourge and the Sky Sentinels, because Overflow are feeling pretty fired up right now, right? They were 0-6. They had no hope for what their future in this company was going to bring, and it felt like for a moment maybe they were going to get kicked out of the Scourge entirely. But Kai Hong Ki did an incredible stunt dive, and Hana Rukawa got the fans to invade the ring for her to show their devotion to the Scourge and what they were capable of. And I did have to suspend them for a bit for that, or at least suspend Hana. Kai Hong just needed to recover from that crazy stunt dive. But they both came back and they won their first match as a tag team against Shots Fired last month. And so they come down to the ring and they make a call out. Anyone from the Sky Sentinels that wants a piece of what we have to offer, come at us. And Shots Fired comes back out and agrees to a tables match, which they think will maybe prevent Overflow from relying on some of the dirty tactics that might give them an advantage. The brutality of a street fight that Shots Fired does not inherently want to partake in. And it's not just about these two factions, right? Hana Rukawa and Denise Weston have also fought individually. They've been in some multi-woman matches where the two of them have gone up against each other quite a bit. And I think that leads to this extra layer of frustration between these two tag teams. So you have Overflow, who wants to prove that this is just the new them, that they're here to make their mark on magically enhanced wrestling in the long run. And you have Shots Fired, who are here to keep Overflow down and to prove that these two competitors have what it takes to perhaps succeed where Flying High have failed and one day make a real push to unseat Light and Shadow for the Tag Belt Championship. Who do you think I gave the nod to?
So here's the thing, right? A tables match is something that it's kind of easy to get a fluke win in, right? Mm-hmm. So if you wanted to give Overflow another kind of like surprise win with their return, like you said, you could do it in a tables match. It wouldn't be too hard. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the better story. I think I like that. I think you oversold Overflow a little bit with them returning from, both of these big moments that you and I know mechanically they're suspended for a little while. So I think I'm going to pick Overflow. They're the one that stands out to me.
That is indeed where I'm going with this, and I'm glad you're with me on that journey. It's a 4.25 star match, which I'm totally fine with. I like seeing Overflow get a little bit more of a nod. It's a hot match between the two teams. And this is, I guess, the feud starter. I guess I didn't have that feud in mind when the two tags fought the other week. But I'm glad to be able to build that out, set this up as more of a long-term issue that these two teams have with each other. And it is, of course, Hana Rukawa putting Denise Weston through the table. And that will be the question, right? Is Overflow as good as these last two matches seem to indicate, or did they rely on a little bit of luck and a little bit of hype, a little bit of perhaps intimidation against a Shots Fired tag that, has been a little bit reeling? Or will Shots Fired bounce back? We'll have to see what they have in store. But for now, Overflow are indeed getting the W.
I dig it. I like the win.
But we move on now. Oh my God, why did this roll so bad? Oh, that's heartbreaking. Okay, well, crap. Okay. This is a feud package between the Southern Sentries and Independents, but it's worth noting that this kind of showed up on Gus Sanchez's desk when he came in the morning. And this package gives a very biased perspective of Independence's domination over the Southern Sentries so far. It points out how many times Independence has secured a victory, especially including Adrian Lorenzo's turn into the faction. But any mention of Independence's losses, mostly Johnny Scott, have been struck off the record entirely. Johnny's voice can be heard kind of singing in Latin with orchestral music behind him to like play up the grandiose nature of Independence. And the package ends with Independence promising to put the Southern Sentries down for good at Pact of Doom. So I guess fans didn't like how biased the segment was. It seems to have come directly from Independence, really, but hopefully you had more fun with it than the fans did.
Yeah, no, I think building up this giant faction feud, especially for, I believe this is a silver pay-per-view, or is this a bronze?
Silver pay-per-view, yeah.
This is a silver pay-per-view. That's a great opportunity to do something, to have something a little more, like symbolic, right? And like the entire pay-per-view feels like it's probably going to be about this faction feud versus like dealing with all the different titles separately.
Yes. Absolutely. There's definitely going to be some good faction stuff in there. But we're also seeing, as we can see in this next match, perhaps title feuds and faction feuds do not have to be opposed to each other. Because Larger Than Life, the current Jester's Joust champions, who've held it for 4 months now, ever since they left the Eastern Elite to join Independence, Larger Than Life has been on quite the hot streak, and they have beaten their former trio friends at Liquid Steel, who are now all part of Eastern Elite after Jay Xavier moved over, for quite a few matches in a row. And yeah, that 4-2 feud's still going strong since both of them have some incredible storytellers within their teams. Larger Than Life have won 4 successful pay-per-view matches, and they want to see if anyone else has what it takes to truly challenge them for the Jester's Joust. And this is where Risk It All comes in, right? They are a Southern Sentries trio that they believe has what it takes to take down Independence. And they believe Independence needs to be taught a lesson, right? That this is just a pure ego trip that they are on, and that they need to be humbled for all of the trash that they're talking, for this grandiosity and religious fervor that is perhaps overstating what they're truly capable of. Risk It All wants to bring them back down to earth. And sure, Risk It All have only fought once together since May, since Bryce Dannenberg has been more focused on Judgment Day, and Joey Smoking Gun Ace, as you know, has been much more focused on singles competition. And sure, Mikey Dolan's only 2-10, with his single victory coming against Vinny Stacks, who's Independence more as a bankroller than he is as a wrestler. And sure, Risk It All is mostly known for losing to the Chosen Ones, the Sky Sentinels trio, a whole bunch of times, but surely they have a chance to take the title back in this weekly, Walter.
Absolutely not. Please click on Larger Than Life.
I am clicking on Larger Than Life, but
thank you.
It's a 5.25 star match. It Risk It All clearly puts in a stronger effort than I think a lot of people were expecting from them. And it gives me enough of a reason to give them a rematch at Pact of Doom. So we're going to see the Southern Sentries and the Independents. You know, there are multiple belts where these feuds can very naturally play out. And it's nice to see those coming together here. No holy shit moment. Just not getting one of those tonight. That's fine. I didn't spend more than I wanted to on this card to try to get a couple big wins here. It's cool.
Xander called me and said you weren't getting any tonight.
But he said earlier he was jinxing Eduardo more than me. I guess neither of us have really gotten a lot of holy shit moments tonight. He's really putting his foot on the gas to try to keep us down and give him the opportunity to jump back in. But oh well, I'll take a nice feud starter here. I like Risk It All versus Larger Than Life as a trio feud, and it'll be nice to just have a trios match that isn't Larger Than Life versus Liquid Steel for the first time in 4 pay-per-views. So good for Risk It All. Hopefully they can put out a better showing at Pact of Doom.
Absolutely. It is nice to use your trios belts.
Yes. Well, okay, I'm not feeling great about this card score because that's a third segment that would need to be dropped. I have low rolled on every single package tonight. Incredible. Well, look, This package, ignore the fact that it says Tilly Cooper, because you don't actually know that yet. This package is kind of focused on who will face Duka Igarashi as the next Frost Witch contender. Ariana's obviously moved on to focus on the Sorcerer's Supreme Champion, and Mistress Jade was disposed of in a blow-off match at Crown of Madness. Briar Allison just won an opportunity to keep Pete 1v1 for the title at any pay-per-view before the end of the year, though it is a fixed match contract, so she has to announce it in advance. But the Sky Sentinels don't seem interested in feuding each other right now because they have to deal with the Scourge and the Hellfire Club. So the package ends with one wrestler in silhouette with the text "Who's next?" on the screen. Which, again, I think you can kind of guess who's next, but that's the idea here, at the very least.
Well, that's why the game's punishing you, because you didn't do what the game says it should be, so.
I guess. Well, we move. It turns out Duka gets to the ring and starts calling out her next challenger because she knows the Scourge have undoubtedly prepped someone to compete, and she's just waiting to see who's going to turn that corner. And of course, Tilly Cooper's music kicks in, the authoritarian patriot who was just 2 months ago still a part of the Sky Sentinels. And Tilly makes it clear, look, I still plan on fighting Lorena Lucier down the line, not to take over the Sky Sentinels because I don't care about leading your puny faction anymore. I just want to kick her ass. But I'm not going to do so until Ariana's done with her. So for right now, it's just you and me. You are my warm-up for that inevitable showdown, and I plan to strike first blood tonight. And look, Duka, she's the 4th highest rated woman on our roster right now, right? She has done a great job both in the Jester's Joust when she was part of the Chosen Ones trio that I just mentioned earlier, and beating competitors like Ariana Black and disposing of Mistress Jade quite cleanly. Duka's not afraid of anybody. Tilly's not going to get in her head beyond the fact that Tilly was once a former friend, a former compatriot within the Sky Sentinels. But Duka, she's the serious one. She knows how to turn off her emotions and focus on doing whatever it takes to win tonight and defend her Frost Witch Championship belt. So the question is, does she do so? Or does Tilly pull off an upset and take the belt off of Duka tonight?
So normally changing belts on weeklies don't make a whole lot of sense, but sometimes there are special moments where it does. And I think this is the right time to do it. Tilly Cooper beating Duka, I think, is a hell of a story. And then you can immediately run it back at the pay-per-view and allow the babyface to do a little bit of the chase against Tilly Cooper.
So I love the dynamic you're describing. I am going to hold it off for one. I'm going to hold it off for 1 week.
Okay.
But I want to be very clear on something. Duka gets the win because Tilly bleeds first. But the camera pans to Duka after the match, and it turns out she was bleeding underneath that neck piece that she's wearing. And the ref just didn't catch it in time. She should have lost. But she narrowly manages to escape, narrowly manages to hold on to her title. And Tilly, when she sees the replay of that, when she gets home tonight, is going to be furious. And I can only imagine the anger she's going to bring to Duka when they compete at Pact of Doom in 2 weeks.
Okay. I'm not against it.
Mm-hmm. Well, the fans are in. It pushes the Frostwitch Championship to a gold prestige belt, and it finally gets me a holy shit moment tonight as Duka Igarashi slaps the taste out of Tilly Cooper's mouth before they both start brawling. So I will take that. The question is that enough? I had some good segments. I had some good matches.
I don't think so.
I don't think it is either. That's a 4.5 star, which means I am now tied with Xander at 9.25 across the two shows. Eduardo is in the lead at 9.5 stars. He and I will both be counting on Eduardo to screw up next week if we're going to have any chance of taking a point or at least sharing a half point with him. And Walter, you're only half a star down. If you get one of your best weekly cards, and the rest of us are not able to catch up, you could still snag a half point and get yourself on the board. So,
Chase, have you ever seen a 10 segment card?
10 segment? Oh boy.
10
yes.
5-star segments. Let's fucking do it.
Let's go. I am here for it. I am also here for, well, no, this isn't exactly what I was hoping to see. I guess my hype just wasn't particularly high to help me here, because you end up scoring better than I do tonight. I ended up losing 15.9k fans. You lost 12.2. Xander, the biggest win of the night. That doesn't surprise me given how much he prioritizes hype. But Eduardo, with his consistency, is gaining fans for the second week in a row, and has got to be feeling pretty damn good about that and his quarter-star lead heading into next week. Any final thoughts here, Walter, as we review this card and prepare for one last set of weeklies next week?
I guess it's time to pull out the stops and try and beat Eduardo next week. So I don't know. I might have to do something a little crazy.
Well, I look forward to seeing what that is, and I hope you viewers at home are as well. If you do, be sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel, give it a like, give it a comment, let us know what you think. We always love hearing from you. Don't forget to follow us at twitch.tv/redshirtking. It will be Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific time, where we pick back up with our next silver pay-per-view. But of course, as long as you're tuned to this channel, you will see when the next weekly show goes live, that will determine who can snag a point here and set themselves up to make a big push at the next pay-per-view. Walter, where can the nice people at home find you?
Yeah, as always, you can find me at C80s_LOL on Twitter and at C80s.bsky.social on Blue Sky.
Absolutely. You can follow the podcast that Walter and I do together at Rough Drafts Podcast on bsky.social. And you can follow me, Chase Wassenaar, at bsky.social. We just posted the gaming pod on Monday. It was a really fun time. I got to hear you talk about Ace Attorney, which is a thing I didn't know would ever happen. So if you're as excited for that as I was, you should definitely go give that a listen and come back on Monday for that podcast, because we're talking Madam Web, which I'm very excited for. I can't wait to see how that chaotic episode comes out in the edit. But for now, thanks everyone for your time. We will be back. Till then, goodbye, Internet.